So it's 2014, and I met Ben Glass in 2005, I believe, is when I was sitting around and I wanted to know if there was any way that I could get in touch with a lawyer that knew anything about marketing. Because I didn't know any lawyers that knew anything about marketing. Now, who's read The Slight Edge? Right, and everybody else will by 1 month from now, right? Remember the story in The Slight Edge when Jeff Olson said he wanted to start a company and he wanted to do it in Germany, so he just started asking what question? What did he ask? Do you know any Germans? Do you know any Germans? It's just a silly question. Do you know any Germans? And then all of a sudden somebody said, well, I do know somebody who's German, and I can introduce you to that person. And then there's a great long story about, by that simple question, do you know any Germans? All of the things that he wanted to do came to pass, and even in much greater amounts. So I said, do you know any lawyers? And one person at the company that I was there at the time, before there was a top practices, said, well, you know, Ben Glass does marketing, or Ben Glass likes marketing. Now, Ben was down there in Fairfax, Virginia, in his little crazy laboratory, which you'll figure out. You guys already know Ben anyway, most of you, because he's on the mindset calls. He's down there in his little laboratory, pretty much putting the final touches on what would become great legal marketing. But there was no great legal marketing at the time, where he helps lawyers in the same way that Top Practices does with podiatrists and other doctors. And so he gets a call from us that said, hey, we'd like to talk to you about marketing. And he said, that's funny, because I was going to call you, because he knew that the company we were at had a really good list, and he wanted to find out if there was any way he could get access to a good list. So I met Ben, and we had, we had a great time. He said, listen, there's a couple things you're going to have to do. One of them was you're going to have to go to www.fosterwebmarketing.com and see my good friend Tom Foster. So I checked that out, and I thought, well, this is great. He also gave me a couple other homework assignments, which I accomplished. And I went down, and I met with Ben, and I realized that there was a kindred spirit here, and I thought this would be great if I could work with this guy. And I think he thought, I don't know, we'll figure out if this jerk knows anything later. Because we put a small meeting together, and I remember I kept trying to get Ben to get involved. And I'd say, okay, well, this is the curriculum. And he's like, whoa, I'm gonna talk for like an hour. And it was 2 days long. So I'll take an hour, maybe 2. And then I thought, well, what am I gonna do about that? We go down to this thing, Tom comes down, both of them are kind of like, well, we'll check this guy out. And luckily, I started talking about goals, and when the meeting was over, they both said, okay, Rem, we're in, we'll go. And that was a long time ago. I will tell you something, the alliances that you make, the mastermind alliances that you make, why I want you to meet people here, determine the trajectory of your success. If I hadn't met Ben Glass, I don't know, I'd be something else, but it wouldn't have been the experience that I've had, which has been fantastic. If I hadn't met Tom Foster at the same time, it wouldn't have been that way. If I hadn't met Hal Ornstein and the folks at AAPPM, and all I did was ask, do you know any podiatrists? Well, AAPPM's going to have a meeting down in Baltimore, and I met Hal and the group in a bar. And you know why I got to speak at the next AAPPM meeting? Because I was polite to the waiter. And Hal decided, he's a pretty good guy, so yeah, we'll have a meeting, and you can come because I was nice to the waiter whenever they brought the food. So you just never know. You never know when it's going to happen, when you're going to meet the right person. And tonight, I'm here to tell you that you are going to meet the right person. This gentleman that I'm going to bring up to the stage is, I'd have to say, one of my best friends ever. I respect him and his wife beyond words. I've often told Ben many times, you're a better man than I am for all of the things that he's done. But if I had to go anywhere, and let's say I had to go into, I don't know, what's a nasty place these days? Baghdad's still nasty. Yeah, that's right. We'll take Baghdad. And I needed somebody to be behind me. And I know would never, ever, ever break faith. It's Ben Glass. So, without further ado, let's give a big, you all know him, right? You've been on the mindset calls with him. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Glass.
Thank you very much, sir. Now can you hear me? Now that they stopped playing the music? All righty. So it's about, I don't know, 6, 8, 9 months ago, Rem goes through the drill. He has to call my office to make an appointment to talk to me because he knows I don't read his emails. And he says, could you come keynote the Top Practices Conference? And I said, no. And he says, what? I said, I don't do Vegas. I don't do Dallas. I don't do all the places you go. He says, I got you covered because 3 months ago, I arranged to do it at the Renaissance in your backyard, just hoping that you would say yes to come and talk. So I said, all right, what's the date? He gives me the date. I look at my calendar. I go, well, we got a problem. My son Patrick is getting married that weekend. Says, I'll tell you what, he's getting married on Sunday, so I'll come over Friday. How's that? Now, it turns out later, Patrick, who's in the Army, after setting the date for this weekend, decides to raise his hand and volunteer to go to Afghanistan. And so moved up his wedding, was married in April, moved into a house like the day after, really. He shipped off to Afghanistan, so he's there now, and we hope that he stays safe. I said, all right, so we'll do it. I said, what do you want me to do? He says, just come talk about marketing. I can do marketing in my sleep. Like you can wake me up in the middle of the night, hum 2 bars, and boom, I can do anything on marketing. Got a big ego, too. So we're set, the date goes in the calendar, and I don't know, a month, 2 goes by, and I start because I'm on Rem's list, and I get his mailed monthly newsletter and his stuff, and I start reading about the conference. And I'm reading the stuff that he says I'm going to talk about. Ben Glass is going to teach you how to live life big. He's going to reveal all of the secrets of success in the universe. He knows all about this, and you just got to be there because this is going to be the most fabulous thing since bread was invented. And I thought, that's a much more challenging talk to give. It's challenging for a number of reasons, because there's things you can't talk about if you're going to give a live life big, be successful talk. So I can't tell you what it looks like. I guess most of you know I got 9 kids, and so I can't talk about the chaos that's oftentimes inside our house, right, in this live life big neighborhood. I can't tell you about the holes that are in the wall where maybe a kid was rambunctious, or the one hole that has the imprint of the fist where one of them got a little upset at another, missed the other but hit the wall, and we just don't get around to getting it fixed, because that's not like live life big stuff. I can't tell you about the days that I come home from running the law practice and great legal marketing, and I say to Sandi, who's sitting up here, remind me why we're doing this, okay? Because another one of those lug nuts is loose at one of those 2 businesses, and it's frustrating as all get out, trying to keep all the constituents happy. The customers, the law clients, and the employees. And so if you looked at that, if you walked in or you listened into some of the calls that Rem and I have, you would think, that ain't live life big stuff either, right? And I can't tell you, I'm not allowed to tell you about the meeting that Tom and Rem and I had back in the first quarter of this year. We have our little mastermind meeting, and for the first 2 hours, Tom and I are going at it, ready to kill each other over some long now forgotten riff that we had. And Rem's there because Rem's in charge of those meetings of calling in the lunch. He's got the lunch menu. He's wondering, is this meeting going to make it until lunch? He's not even trying to referee us. The other thing that's challenging is, you get up here, you read this copy, and you think, well, if you start talking about being successful and living life big, it's risky because you could come off as preaching. You could come off as holier than thou. I may say something that you fundamentally 180% disagree with in terms of principles. I'll tell you now that it will do you no good to corner me in the hallway later and try to convince me that my view on a certain principle of life is wrong. And so it's a much more challenging talk to give than to just get up and go, hey, let's do ads, let's do the internet, and I promise you, I will do that stuff tonight. Okay, Rem, he said 90 minutes, but take whatever you want. Okay, so y'all are here, you got nothing else to do because he didn't have a party for you tonight. He told me that, right? And so that's where we are. But I decided, with all of those risks, to go ahead and to give the talk for this reason. And that is that the message that I'm going to deliver tonight is a message that the whole world needs to hear. Now, how's that for ego? But listen to me. The message is that in America, where you are today is by and large a product of the decisions you have made until today. And where you'll be in 90 days and a year and 3 years and 5 years and 20 years are by and large products of the decisions that you will make. And I know that bad stuff happens. I know that people have unexpected financial loss, illness, natural catastrophes. I get it. You come follow us around for a year. You get a little bit of all of that. But it's how you respond, not react. How you learn to respond when the bad stuff happens that will largely guide your life and send you forward. And I truly believe that this is a talk that needs to be shouted from the mountaintops. It needs to be preached from the pulpits of our houses of worship. It needs to be taught in the schools. It needs to be discussed at your breakfast tables, at your luncheons, and at your dinners. Our children aren't being taught this in the schools. You don't hear it when you just hang out with normal people. And let me tell you, you all are abnormal. Why in the world would you be in a hotel ballroom that's not dancing and drinking on a Friday night on one of the most beautiful days of our early part of the fall, except that you are abnormal and you want to be successful? But what I hope to do tonight is to give you a formula for giving this talk. Because as this talk needs to be given all over the world, it's you that needs to give it, right? It's you that have children, that you sit at the breakfast table, you sit at the dinner tables. You may be coaching, you may be interacting with other people's kids, and they're not getting the messages. It's not taught in the schools. I watched a video on the internet the other day. It took, 6 minutes for a teacher to explain how to add 9 plus 6, right? Instead of talking about things like, how do you make good choices about who do you hang out with? How do you get better at anything? These are the things that are missing in my view. And every one of you who hears this tonight, I think, has a responsibility to go out. If not you, then who? Who is doing this talk right now? Nobody. There's nobody out there who's getting on a stage or a pulpit or any politician who's delivering the message that this is about the decisions you make. You have your future totally in your own hands. Stop blaming other people. Figure out what success means for you, and it can be many things. And here where I grew up in Northern Virginia, a lot of times you'll hear that's all about, how many advanced placement classes can I cram into my kid's resume before he starts applying to the 16 top schools, and gee, I'm thinking about this while he's in kindergarten. And it may be that way in your communities. So that's why I give that, hopefully to inspire you. You can learn the success stuff, to go out into your communities to give that talk. All right, so they always teach you when you're giving a talk like this, you got to get a little social proof. So number one question I get asked is, do you really have 9 kids? I do. Same wife? That's always a follow-up question. I do. All right. We've got 5 biological children, 4 adopted from China. This is a picture of Patrick at his wedding back in April. So we got some in-laws thrown in there. Here's my bigger family. I was the oldest of 7, grew up right down the road here in Annandale. My mom and dad are here. And if you guys, here, no, not you, these guys. Sorry, I can't see with the lights. My mom and dad and my sister Terry, and on last Monday, they celebrated 58 years of marriage. And in another week or so, when I had to ask Terry to confirm the exact number, Mom will turn 80. And isn't it neat how just by learning a couple of facts, like someone's been married for 58 years, that you can make certain judgments about how they have chosen to live their lives. I do. The next question I get is, do you really practice law? I do. Full-time, I actually say, I'm an entrepreneur. I can pick whatever 80 hours a week I want to work, right? Full-time practice, small personal injury and medical malpractice, practice in Fairfax City. Employ a couple lawyers, got a great staff. Some of my team is back in the back because we have our event here. They didn't come here to see me. They came here to check out the space because we have our event here in a month, and we want to make sure that we know how big this place is again, even though we've been here for a couple of years. Here's a big shot of my team. And one of the things we do, which is neat, I think, is we look for young, smart people. We don't really care what their resume says. We're looking for curiosity. We're looking for smart. We're looking for kids, by and large, who will go and will learn things on their own. And it's just been kind of neat to see the youngins, as I call them, who've passed through my office, who now have gone on to do very cool things. All right, so now that's the warm-up. Let's get started. It is the fall of 1970. Hey, Remy, you know what I can't see up here is, hey, Tom, what? Presenter view. Can we do presenter view? Can you guys get that up here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
If you want to know what's coming next, just ask.
Well, you can figure it out. It's a fall of 1970, so I'm 12 years old. And my dad and I are driving from our house in Annandale, where Mom and Dad still live, down Columbia Pike to turn left on Sleepy Hollow Road to go down to Sleepy Hollow Elementary School, where I'm going for the tryout of my first, at that time they called it select soccer. Now we've known it as travel soccer. I've been playing for 3 years. Back then, you started playing at 9. We played in the playgrounds and the streets and stuff before that. And on the way out to the first tryout, Dad turns to me and he says, "I've got some advice for you." And I'm a smart guy, so I go, "All right, I'm listening." Now you have to understand, Dad, he before he retired was an electrical engineer. Everything is science and math to Dad. In fact, before that, as we're grown up, learned to play soccer, we'd often go out together and line the soccer fields. And this is back when you used chalk, and sometimes you're out in some cow pasture that has no lines from the season before. And so we had to figure out how to actually make a rectangle. And so these were lessons in math and trigonometry. And we're heading out to the practice, and Dad says, "When they ask you, tell them that you play left fullback." Okay. Can I ask you a couple of questions and make a couple of points? Now, one other thing you got to know about Dad is our house, electrical engineer, we're a little different. We never had a real TV. Not because we couldn't afford a real TV, but because we had to build them in these little kits that came in the mail. Soldering iron, solder. We'd be like, "Dad, The Wizard of Oz is coming on in 3 months. Are we going to be able to watch it this year?" Now, Dad would go to the plan that he had already written up on the wall in his little workshop downstairs, and he'd look at every step, and he knew exactly the date, and he said, "Yeah, it's going to be ready 3 days before." All right, we didn't go buy TVs. We built them. Dad built them. I said, "Man, I've been playing soccer for 3 years. I'm pretty good. I can dribble around people. I can score goals. In fact, I love scoring goals. I'm a forward." He goes, "Yeah, I know that." I said, and not only am I, you all know that the fullback is the last line of defense, okay? And so not only do I like scoring goals, but Dad, I've never played fullback in my life. See, back then, the fullback was really relegated to the big kid that was strong, that could hoof the ball 50 or 60 yards, didn't have a lot of skill. Dad says, yeah, I know you never played fullback in your life. I said, and Dad, you and I, we've known each other a long time. And you may have noticed that I right-footed. I'm not left-footed. I'm not coordinated enough to kick a ball with my left foot. He goes, no problem. Why should I tell them when they ask that I play left fullback? He says, well, I know the other kids that are coming out there. I've watched them. He says, they're all forwards. They all love to score goals. They're all right-footed players. If there's any kid out there that's big and going to hoof the ball 50 yards, the likelihood is he's going to be a right-footed player. He says, they're going to need a left fullback. And that's the best way to get on the team. And that's your goal for now, is just to get on the team. So sure enough, we go out to the yard and or to the school, and my now long friends, Dave Dugan and Sam Vera and Bill Reynolds, and we do a little warm-up, and they start to do the thing. They go around and say, what position do you like to play? And these kids are going, oh, I'm a forward, coach. I like to score goals. Oh, I'm a midfielder. One kid, Ernie Giordano, the big Italian in our neighborhood, who was a big dude, could kick the ball 50 yards, 60 yards, right-footed. He became the right fullback. I became the left fullback, because when I told them I played left fullback, they said, great, you're in. We were hoping that we would find one of you. And of course, you know, the business message from that is that achieving extraordinary results rarely comes from following the crowd. Earl Nightingale once said that if you were going to try something new or enter a new profession, or for you all, if you were adding sort of a practice area, a niche to your practice, or maybe a line of products, and you didn't have a mentor, you didn't know what to do, the best thing you could do was to look around and see what everybody else was doing, and then figure out a way to do it differently from that. Do it the opposite of that, because by definition, the way most people do things is average. So there, I made the team. If you look, I'm on the right-hand side, the skinny kid on the front, the second guy, his arms kind of crossed. And that was our first Annandale Boys Club select team. And it turns out that team is pretty good. Annandale, if anyone is a long-time sort of youth sports, it was one of the hotbeds of soccer in the 70s. St. Louis was another one. New York and New Jersey were some. So that team's pretty good. And we start winning games, 4-0, 6-0, 8-0, sometimes double figures. They wouldn't let you do that today because it's like politically incorrect and it's insensitive to the team that's losing to roll so many goals in. But we didn't have those rules back then in the 70s. And one night, we go to play Mount Vernon. And Mount Vernon wasn't a very good team. Man for man, boy for boy, because we were 12. We were much better than Mount Vernon. But they had this kid on the team who was new to the area. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid had just moved from England. And he's very good, because he didn't start playing when he was 9. He did start playing when he was 5, all right? And he's fast, and he knows the game, and he's good, and he is the right forward. So got it left, newly created in my own head. Me and Dad, we're trying to figure out how to play left fullback up against this really good right forward. And first half, I ain't doing so good. He's killing me. He's got 3 goals. Every time he comes down the field, I go to try to take the ball away from him. He gives me a fake. I go for the fake. He goes around and scores a goal. So at halftime, Sam Vera says to me, he says, you're getting killed. I know that, coach. He says, but I've got an answer for you. He says, what I want you to do in the second half is to not try to take the ball away from him. Well, that's different, because everybody else was trying to take the ball away from him. He says, all I need you to do is to stay between him and the goal. Just don't go for any fakes. Just try to stay between him and the goal and delay him, and help will come. And it worked. And we won the game. The kid was very frustrated after that. But he came up to me after the game, he says, no one had ever played me like that before. And of course, the business message from that is, I don't care whether you just now found top practices yesterday and made your way somehow to this event, or you're one of those folks that have been with REM for years and years and years. having some sort of a coach, someone who can look at your business and at times your life. Sandi and I are actually we're at a parenting conference all day today, all day tomorrow up in Reston, where we are learning how to parent kids from hard places, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later. We're pretty good parents. We launched 4 into the world already, right? Our youngest bio son and 4 Chinese children are still living at home, but I've got a lawyer, a warrior, a pastor, and a soon-to-be school teacher. So we've done something okay. But having a coach who can look objectively at what it is you are doing and make sometimes those slight corrections. Don't go try to get the ball from him. Don't go for his fakes. Let's try a different strategy. Is absolutely essential. It's one of those things that every successful person I know has. And sometimes it's coaching in one realm. It may be simply marketing. It may be a lot of what Rem and I do, which is both marketing and mindset, right? And it can be stuff like Sandi and I are learning today, which is all about parenting, because you really want to be a full person. It does you no good, by the way, if your business is really great and you totally screw up your kids, your spouse, and your family life. And how many of us know, situations where that has happened? So, good news is, after the game where the kid's beating me, next week I show up to practice, he's on our team. Because that's how we kind of recruited. We'd play these teams, and there would be, like the best kid would see ours, and we were pretty good. And their dad or mom would say, hey, we'd like to come join. So he joins our team. Do I have in the house any old-time North American Soccer League fans? Like followed soccer through the 70s, New York, so now this won't mean anything to you. But Gary Etherington is the guy on the far right in the blue shirt. Gary didn't go to college because he got drafted out of the high school directly to the New York Cosmos when Cosmos were really big time. The guy in the yellow shirt, who's not me, I'm the guy with the red hair. The other guy in the yellow shirt is Pelé, right? One of the most famous names in sports forever. 2 of my other friends, Doug Dugan and Chris Davin. So Gary went, the kid who burned me that first half, but then became my teammate the next week, went on to become North American Soccer League Rookie of the Year in 1978, had a long career. So our team's good, and we're getting better players, and now we're beating teams 8 and up, 8 goals and up. And so we start playing up, and we start playing in leagues. So when we're 13, we're playing against the 15-year-olds. When we're 15, we're playing against the 17-year-olds. When we're 18, we're playing against the college guys. And it's another sort of fundamental business principle that I have observed others who are successful follow, is that if you want to get bigger, better, faster at something, you can't play in the same league that you grew up in, okay? You always have to be on the lookout for the challenge in your life. And it's not just business. If you want to be a better musician, if you want to play tennis better, whatever, you have to go and play with someone who is bigger, better, faster than you are, with a coach, always looking for the opportunity to do something different. And our team played up, and we had good players. And in 1976, which was my senior year in high school, we were the champions of the United States. And that was pretty cool. I mean, to play with these guys, many of whom are still my friends, and in a single elimination tournament to beat every team that came our way and to be national champions. That led to being able to play at William Mary, short shorts and red hair. My kid's like, you're not really going to show that picture, are you? Yeah, I was on the cover of the media guide. I got some form of success. More importantly, it led to me meeting my lovely wife, Sandi. This is one of our first dates. I'll tell you something funny about this picture. I was showing it to my 8th grader, Emma. I'm going to use this picture at my talk. She looks at it, she goes, deadpan, just absolute deadpan. Dad, sometimes really popular and beautiful girls date really average guys. And I just looked at her and I said, oh, thank you. I think you're right. She goes, no, she doesn't even get that she goes, no, it's true. I've seen it at my school. These average, quiet, shy guys, they get the best girls sometimes. I go, yep, that's us. All right. Rem already alluded to and told you a little bit about our friendship. And this kind of goes with the whole concept of playing up, is if you want to get to another level, one of the best predictors, and this is the same talk I give when I give to junior high and high schoolers, and I've spoken at some colleges. One of the best predictors of how you will end up is who you choose to run around with. And we have seen this over and over again. That if you want to run around with the guys and gals, let's just take your profession, who think the whole world is caving in because of Obamacare and Medicare and whatever care. And if you want to hang with that group, every morning the only thing you'll be thinking about is Obamacare and Medicare and woe is me and how am I going to make the payroll. And what you need to do, and actually you have found them in this room, and you find them in REM's coaching groups, is that group of abnormal professionals, extraordinary professionals who are here searching for maybe 4 new friends. I mean, Tom and Rem and I go back now a long time, and I guess maybe Tom will tell you a little bit, hopefully this weekend, how we got together. But yeah, you may call it serendipity, good luck. Sometimes we think it's a God thing when we talk about it. But finding and sometimes shedding people who don't think big is a critical factor in seeking success. And so one of the things Rem has done very well in putting together top practices is he's been in front of a lot of people, and he mails a lot of stuff and emails a lot of stuff, and there's only that little sliver of your society, your co-professionals, who think this way. And I think he's probably got 90% of those of you in this room tonight. And so, and we'll talk a little bit later about what I think you should get out of a conference like this, but thank him. Thank him, because if not him, who? Who else in your world, and frankly, who else in my world, in the lawyer world, is putting together groups of people not to come and brag about their success, but to come to a table and say, what are you doing in your business to get this type of a patient? What are you doing with the employee relationships? How are you finding great people? And being really curious about what anyone else in the room who's doing something maybe a little bit better than you are doing. That's hanging out with great people. Now here's one more tip for this first part, and that is when you see somebody doing something good, call them out on it. Call them out on it. And this is something I learned from my mom. My mom and dad, they never, ever lectured us. We had, 5 kids kind of right in a row, and then one a little bit later, and then one a little bit later. So, from time to time, 7 kids. Live in a very cool neighborhood. Like, you could look out in the summertime, 30 kids playing kickball right in the front yard. Our backyard was dirt most of the year because it was the flattest, most rectangular thing. Very cool. But Mom always not only had good things to say about people, but she would tell them good things. We have a little thing at our church every year when we send the seniors off, a little baccalaureate service. And a couple of years ago, a young man who was heading to West Point got up and he gave a talk, and he was fabulous. I mean, 18 years old, able to hold a room, make them laugh, make them listen. And so I didn't really know him. So after the service, I'm getting in line to go up and chat with him because I want to tell him that he's special. I want to tell him that he has an extraordinary gift, that no matter what he does in the world, the ability to get up in front of a crowd and be a leader and talk to them, it'll just take you everywhere. Eeyore gets in front of me. Eeyore gets up to him and says, "You're going to West Point? I know somebody who went to West Point. She committed suicide. It's a really hard place." And so here's the game. And here's the really sort of neat biophysical thing about this, is that it's actually, I find it, I'll just use the word selfish, is that when you, in your day, play a little game that every person you come across, when the person who's putting your food in the bags at the end of the grocery line, to the folks who are cleaning your rooms in this nice hotel, to the folks in the line at the TSA, right? You're going through security, and average people go through security thinking, this is going to be a pain in the butt. These guys are all jerks, and I'm just going to be grumpy. Extraordinary people go through and say, I'm going to try to make each one of these people smile today. And what's really, really cool about that is that when you do it, little burst of endorphins get shot off by your adrenal system. It is so cool. I've run marathons. I don't run them anymore because I've had a bunch of knee operations, but run marathons, and you're there in mile 20. Actually, the Marine Corps marathon, mile 20 comes like right down through here. And you start up a conversation with somebody, and you kind of tell them how good they're doing. It does amazing things for you. And it's just so simple to do. And yet most average people just want to go through life, check out, here's my card, here's scan this, okay, good. Or, how are you? If it's not sincere. All I say is, reach out just a little bit. Reach out when you see some young person doing something good. How many have kids that are playing sports, right? What happens? Who's refereeing those games? And this is another place in my heart, as many of you know, because I've been refereeing soccer for 40 years, right? Oftentimes, young kids, right? Do you ever go up and sincerely say, thank you? It's 90 degrees, you're out here, you're doing your fourth game. Just thanks for coming out. I really enjoyed watching you do something like to referee today. It does amazing things for you. It does amazing things for that person. And here I am at St. Michael's Catholic Church School in the pants that we wore in the 70s. Well, let me tell you about the pants. So in our school, most parochial schools, white shirt, blue pants, blue tie, right? So anytime they said you don't have to wear your uniform, now, I wasn't buying it, Mom was buying this stuff, all right? But I was if you can believe this, I was so shy. I was skinny, I wasn't good at much, I had big ears, I had bright red hair, I hated, getting up in front of crowds, but I had a teacher at that school who said, go try, there's actually a contest, and you can just, all you do is read a speech. And she said, just go and do it. And, my message to you is find those opportunities, because I will tell you, schools are different now from when you and I went to school. This crap isn't happening in schools, and it oftentimes isn't happening in the kid's own household. And back in the day on Jayhawk Street, Mom knew everything that went on in that neighborhood, because every parent looked out for every kid. And the parents all talking, we're always like, how the heck did she know that happened 2 weeks ago? Little birdie told me. All right, next topic, step outside your comfort zone. And for this, I'm actually going to take a little break, and because I want to introduce you to my lovely wife, Sandi, who I think epitomizes more than anybody else in the world this concept that if you want to do something special, if you want to live an extraordinary life, you really have to make a decision to step outside of your comfort zone. It ain't going to work all the time, all right? And you're going to fail a lot of times. You can come on, head on up, Sam. But I've asked her to come up here as a little special treat for you, because I really am the warm-up act for Sam, to talk to you a little bit about our family and sort of how we've got to where we are and how our kids have changed us. And then I'll be back. I promise you, we'll do marketing.
Good evening, everybody. Last month, when I was deep in the dog days of summer, trying to figure out how to entertain 5 teenagers for the summer, You know what teenagers like to do best in the summertime?
Can you hear?
Can you hear me? Should I start over?
You're good. You can
Okay.
start over.
I was trying to entertain 5 kids in the month of August when we have no activities, no camps, no nothing. And struggling up against what they really like to do best in the summertime is nothing. So Ben came home one day and he said, how about this weekend, when your parents are here so we can go to that conference, we get away for the night, have a night away. So that sounds good. So a couple weeks later, he came back and said, I booked us a room in a really nice hotel in Arlington. Like, Arlington? The conference is in Reston. Okay. I had visions of a glass of wine and a couple uninterrupted conversations with him. Of course, what he neglected to say is that you all would be here. And he wanted me to speak. I have to tell you, what? Oh, I need this.
It's the right one. Lift hands. Thanks.
The right one?
Yep. Point it towards me. Yep, that's it. Yeah.
That this is outside of my comfort zone. So if I trip over our kids' names and I forget their ages, just understand I really do know them pretty well. Since Ben opened the door by showing that lovely photo of us in college, I thought I'd tell you a little more about that story. Emma was right in a sense. I probably would never have dated Ben because we really traveled in different circles. I knew nothing about soccer, and he knew nothing or cared little about art. However, I had a friend that liked to watch them go play in those little white shorts when they got sweaty. I'm not kidding. So our circles intertwined, and one of his soccer friends asked me out on a date for Ben. So we went. My RA warned me against dating him because she said he was sowing his wild oats. But I took a chance and I went for it. I decided to go anyway, and I have to tell you the 3 things that impressed me the most about Ben. Sorry, honey, it was not your red hair or your sense of style. But you had a car, even if it was a '64 Chevy Nova. You opened doors for me. And on one of our early dates, I can remember driving over a bridge. I have no idea what brought this up, but you said, if I can be half as good as my father was, I'll be happy. I knew right then and there that he was different. He still tried to sow his wild oats after that. But I won him back. Just like Ben always knew he wanted to be a lawyer, I always knew I wanted to have children. Never in my wildest dream did I think we'd have 9. Before I tell you about our journey, I'd like to tell you a little more about our children in the order that they joined our family. Brian is our oldest. He practices law in Fairfax, not with Ben. And he and his wife, Krista, blessed us with our first grandchild in, I guess, a year ago, April, and they're expecting another one in the beginning of next year. Brian ran marathon with Ben because he thought, if Dad can run it, I can do it. And I remember on his first marathon, he was not looking so good at mile 20. I took a picture of him, and at the end of the race, he said, if I ever talk about doing a marathon again, please show me that picture you took. But you know what? The next morning, he woke up and decided that that couldn't be his last marathon. So today, in his spare time, he runs ultramarathons, which are 50-mile plus, or 24-hour races. I think that's probably going to end soon with the next baby, but, it's cool while it lasts. Caitlin is a Lutheran pastor in a small town in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and she's learning that writing sermons every Sunday is the easy part of being a pastor. She also runs marathons, but she just runs regular marathons. That would be 26.2 miles. As Ben said, Patrick is a first lieutenant in the Army, currently stationed in Afghanistan. He and his lovely wife, Eileen, got married in April and bought a house so that hopefully, shortly, he will return. They have never lived in the same state while they were dating or through their engagement or anything. So we're hoping to have him back safe and sound soon to start his life close to us. Kelsey graduated last May from College of William & Mary. She's our only one that went to William & Mary. And we thought we would get back there a lot to visit, but somehow that didn't happen. She's there now getting her undergrad or her master's degree in elementary education. And our oldest, Brian, talked her into running the Marine Corps Marathon this fall. He's going to use it as a training race, but she's going to run it, which is really pretty cool. That brings us to Matthew, who is 14 and a freshman at Robinson Secondary. You'd think that when God gives you a child at 41, he would give you an easy child. I'm here to tell you that that's not true. Matthew has been moving and kicking since well before he was born, but that serves him well on the soccer field, and while we never got a red-haired child, I think Ben got his soccer protege in Matthew. Kevin joined our family in 2003 at the age of 18 months. He was really more like a 9-month-old at the time. He was born with a cleft lip and palate, which was unrepaired when we brought him home. He'd never eaten solid food. He couldn't feed himself. He couldn't walk. He could hardly sit up straight and he had very poor muscle tone from the months and months he'd stayed in his crib in the orphanage. He's now 12 and in 6th grade. He is very creative and resourceful. Last year for Medieval Day, he wanted to be a knight, so I researched and found a pattern to make him a helmet, and I was really proud of myself. It took me a while to get it all just right, but it looked pretty cool. The week after that, he took his scissors, a bunch of brads, and tape, and came back with 5 helmets that he'd made on his own, which is really pretty cool. And then he could tell you what kind each one is and all that. Emma came to us at the age of 6 in 2006. She was a spunky little thing and had a mind of her own. That hasn't really changed. Even though China told us that she was really excited to have a baba, she wanted nothing to do with Ben. You take a lot of pictures on adoption trips. She wanted to do that also. She wants to do everything everybody's doing. So she'd take our camera, carefully aim it at us, and then quickly slide it over to cut Ben out of the picture. She came home, went into kindergarten, and hasn't looked back since. She's a graceful ballet dancer and is in 8th grade at Robinson. David and Leah both came home in early 2010. They're not biologically related, but they were living in the same orphanage at the time that we adopted them. Leah was 11 at the time of adoption and didn't want anything to do with either of us. She's 16 now and in 9th grade. She's a natural athlete, a great musician, and a talented artist. She's continuing to learn what it means to be in a family, having lived her whole life in an orphanage. But I think she's getting the nuances of it. Ben's been traveling a lot lately. The other day she said she wanted me to go away and Dad to stay home. Because she missed him? No, because she figured out that when Dad's in charge, they can watch TV all day long. David was 12 when he joined our family. His transition has been much smoother because he lived in a foster family for 10 years before moving to the orphanage. He's the most thoughtful and helpful child you will ever meet. He loves to talk as much as he loves to run. He ran the Marine Corps Marathon when he was 15 and is now on the varsity cross-country team for Robinson. And what family wouldn't be complete without 2 dogs? When we had our first 4 children, we decided we'd get a dog at the end of it and kind of call us complete. So this time we got 2, thinking maybe that would hold us. In case you've lost track, although Ben told you, we have 5 living at home now. In a few months, they'll be all teenagers. So we're deep in the eye-rolling, door-slamming, silent treatment stage. Having them close together seemed like a good idea when they were all younger. We didn't set out to have such a large family. In fact, once we hit 4, Ben said, "We're good." In truth, I always had a desire to adopt. I'd watch those Wednesday Child segments, and when Ben would come home, where they talk about the kids that need families, and Ben would come home, I'd say, "Can we just one more?" And he'd say, "Are you crazy? we have our hands full with 4. And I think at the time we had 4 in soccer. He was coaching 3 teams. We had 5 playing piano. He was taking piano lessons too, and several in scouts. And, we did have a lot going on. So how do we get here? You don't have accidental adoptions. It takes a lot of work. After we had our 5th child, we attended a concert by Stephen Curtis Chapman. We'd never heard of him, and maybe you haven't either, but he's a big advocate for orphan children. During the concert, they did this set where they talked about the millions of orphans in the world, and what if there were 1 million kids stranded on a boat in the middle of the ocean? We'd do everything we could to bring them home. They were asking for sponsors for these children, but I turned to Ben and I said, I don't want to sponsor one, I want to bring one home. And this time, he said, okay. That was easy, right? Well, not exactly. Once the door to adoption was open, fear flooded in. We spent countless hours thinking, praying, researching, but then at some point you have to make a decision that is going to change your life and the life of your family forever. One Sunday morning we got up early and we made a list, pros and cons of adopting, as if a child's life can be, reduced to that. I don't remember which side was longer, but I do remember that it didn't help us make a decision. What did help was the sermon we heard that day at church. It went something like this: fear is a terrible thing. It keeps us from pursuing our dreams. Fear causes us to settle for second best in life. Our pastor cited many ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. The difference was not that they were actually extraordinary people, they were just like you and me, but that they had made a decision to go for it. They'd taken the risk to step out of their comfort zones and achieve what others thought impossible. So that morning, we made the decision to go for it. Now, don't think that just because we made the decision, all the fear disappeared, or that our family and friends supported us. Almost everyone we told thought we were nuts. They looked at us like we had 2 heads. We could have backed out right then. We could have said, what? You're right, we're crazy. We have 5 healthy kids. Why upset the apple cart? Let's just stick with the status quo. But instead, we wrote a letter, a 5-page letter, explaining our decision to adopt. We sent it to all of our friends and family, and we asked them if they had doubts to please keep them to themselves, because we had enough of them for ourselves. So how do we overcome our fears? First, through our faith and prayer, but also by attending seminars and talking to people who had adopted. I remember sitting in that first seminar thinking, I don't belong here. These people seem so confident in their decision. But what I heard from them was how afraid they were before they actually took that leap of faith to adopt. Learning that it was okay to have fears freed me from thinking that it wasn't the right decision for our family. We still surround ourselves with people on the same journey who have the same set of values and goals. It's so essential to have a community of people who get it, whether it's adoption, navigating surgeries, finding appropriate education for your children with special needs, or marketing your business. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are always people that are a few steps ahead of you on the path, and likewise behind you that you can help. One of the silly fears that I had early on was that our family would no longer look the same. Adopting transracially changes the face of your family. You stand out in a crowd. Your children don't blend in. You don't look like a normal family. If I had known then what I know now, I would realize that the way we looked would be the least of our differences. All of our adoptions were considered special needs adoptions because our children were born with a birth defect. We've learned that their real special need had nothing to do with the way they were born, but everything to do with living in an institution for too many months. Our children grow differently, act differently, think differently, and learn differently because of their early histories. And you know what? That's okay. It's been a good thing. It's opened our world up to all sorts of new people. We really have learned that normal is just the setting on a dryer. Our new normal means pulling up to a park for admission in this. I bet you're jealous. and being asked what group we're with. Our family. It means going through customs and having the agent call next, and we troop up there to him saying, "Only your family, sir." For our youngest biological son, it means being in the minority in your own home most days. It means being asked by that same son, "How old was I when I was adopted?" It also means answering more difficult questions like, "How come you waited so long to bring me home?" If we hadn't stepped out of our comfort zone, our lives would probably still have been good. But we would have missed so much. We would have missed visiting and falling in love with our children's birth country and her people. We would have missed getting involved with Love Without Boundaries, a nonprofit organization that offers hope and healing to orphan children in China still waiting for their families. Ben currently serves on the board, and I was fortunate to be able to go to China and open our first cleft healing home for children born with cleft lip and palate. We would have missed learning the profound effect that early neglect, trauma, and abuse has on children. Oh, I learned that in college. In addition to art, I majored in psychology. That's a really useful double major, but until you live it, you don't really understand the effect. We've learned there's much hope, but resources are hard to find. We would have missed watching our children slowly heal and bloom into the people they are meant to be. We would have missed learning a whole new parenting style for our children from hard places. We wouldn't have fully understood the irreplaceable value of relationships, time together, and slowing down. But most of all, we would have missed the amazing privilege of being called mom and dad by our children from China. They are the extraordinary people in this story. They left everything they knew behind to go with strangers alone to a country they knew nothing about. Not the language, not the food, not the people. Talk about courage. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. It's been one of the hardest things we've ever had to do, but also the most rewarding. I'd like to encourage each of you to dream big. Don't let your fears or the concern of others define who you are or what you do. Decide to live an extraordinary life and just go for it. Thank you.
Great job. Can I have a clicker? So I'm exhausted. By the way, if anyone is ever interested or knows anyone who's thinking about adoption, particularly international adoption, or more importantly almost today, any families that struggle once they've adopted and come back to the United States and realize that the way the kids look really is the least of the issues, Sandi and I are a great resource for pointing people in the right direction. Okay, we're not, I don't think, going to adopt anymore. But it is, it has been so interesting. I mean, you all are scientists. You had to study this stuff I was never good at. But at this late age, to be sitting in on seminars. So we're at this seminar where it's kind of just like this. Okay, there's 450 people in the room that are a community of families and supporters of kids who have been adopted, and there are, as Sandi mentioned, so many issues about the way the brain has developed. And so there's experts, there's families that are farther along the path that we go meet and ask curious questions about, and there's products at the back of the room so that we can keep learning. And so it's been really neat to learn neuroscience, child psychology, parenting. And one of the big messages from today was that really so much of this is about how we as parents respond and react to them. So almost a whole day today was about looking at ourselves. Not really wasn't what I was going to talk about, but it is just so cool, I think, to be in a room like this, studying something like building your own practices. It's cool for me to lead this group next month with lawyers, and it's cool to be sitting in these seminars today learning about kids. The day, REM slide, the day that you stop learning, you might as well just call it in and call it over. Learning with real books, real newspapers, it really is a key to keep going day after day, I think. All right, so we'll do a little marketing. Now, look, you're going to get 2 full days of this funnel hose, and if you've never been here, it really can be exhausting, I think, because really, how many have not been to REM's Top Practices Summit thingy here? So, good number. All right. I promise you, you have never experienced anything like this in your life. I do this for lawyers. Lawyers, it's a lot. I think you all are lucky because there's a lot more, I think, money and competition and arrogance and greed in that group, right? And so, you don't see you don't go to the gym, get on the treadmill and see 4 podiatry ads on the big screen TVs. You do see 4 lawyer ads sometimes at the same time. So let's talk about, what I'd like to do, share with you for a few minutes here, is some overarching principles that I think are applicable to any business that's thinking about marketing. And one of the cool things I'm sure Rem will share with you is that what you always want to be doing is looking around at what other successful businesses, frankly, outside of yours are doing. How does the bagel shop get folks? How does the hair salon get folks? How does a car wash get folks? How do they build? How do they hire? And ask yourself, and be curious, as I said before, what is it that guy's doing or that gal's doing? What great idea do they have that I might import into my own practice? And then find out, where did you learn that? What books are you reading? So here's some principles that I teach lawyers, but it's absolutely applicable here. The first is what David Ogilvy, one of the original ad men, coined the term the moving parade of interest. What that means is that for everyone who has a problem that you could solve and who's ready to pick up the phone to call one of you, there's 8 or 9 other people in your community who have that same problem or will shortly develop that problem, but they aren't yet ready to make the leap to call you. People go on a moving parade of interest about something that they are now interested in. When you bought your last car, you did not just wake up one Saturday morning, not having thought of this before, decide, I want the red Camaro, go down to the red Camaro auto dealership at 10 a.m. and buy one. That's not how we make big purchase decisions. Even the guy who has an acute injury that needs one of you is still going through a process like, well, can I get through it? Maybe I really don't need a healthcare provider. If I do need a healthcare provider, I got podiatrists, I got orthopedists, a chiropractor's running an ad saying he can fix this. I got the acupuncturist saying they can fix it. So they're going through a process. And what you want to be able to do with your marketing is develop, I think, information materials that meet people where they are along this moving parade of interest and enter the conversation that's going on in their head. So I'll give you the example in the lawyer world. In my world, I'm a personal injury lawyer. Every personal injury lawyer ad is, if you've been hurt, call us soon, free consultation, no fee if no recovery, we really care for you, and we're aggressive. Every ad says that, right? But the guy who gets hurt actually doesn't think about the next instant, believe it or not, he's not thinking about, I'm going to go hire me a lawyer. He's thinking about things like, who's going to pay my bills? Which, do I use my car insurance, my health insurance, or the other guy's insurance? The adjuster is calling me on the phone, asking me to sign a few forms and answer some questions. I don't know how to do that. Am I going to miss work? And if so, am I going to get paid for that? And so he's got all these issues. Now, I don't know what they are for the guy who starts to develop foot pain, right? But you do. And you know what it's like if you are interested, for example, in the runner's world and preventing them from having injury and getting them back running as soon as you can. You know what they think about. And so you want to start creating information materials, and we always start with books, and Rem's got a whole series of books you can license if you haven't written your own, that allows someone who's not ready to make the long leap of calling one of you, allows them to start to research. Because that's what you would do if your refrigerator went out. You wouldn't go just order one, you'd research. And that's what they're doing. And once you have the books for the sort of different ways they might be thinking about you, it's easy to then take that material and create video, create other written material, blogs, internet sites. We'll talk about the internet here in just a minute. So that they can find you without you having to sell yourself to them. And as competitive as the lawyer marketing world is, I know that your world and your competitors are not thinking about this. You are years and years, and I think this is a good thing, you are years and years behind the PPC, pills, porn, casino, and lawyers. So you're way behind them. So you have a tremendous advantage by being here. And all you have to do is you have to think about what are the different ways they might be interested, what are the most frequently asked questions that they ask me, and create video, create books, create stuff. Have a way they can enter, what we would say is enter a funnel. And that's really a game changer because lawyers don't think that way by and large. And from what I see of for podiatry ads, they're all about, if you have foot pain, give us a call. I don't see anybody in our market, in the Northern Virginia market, doing this sort of marketing. The second major principle that we teach is you got to have a follow-up system. So that guy who's not ready, those 8 or 9 who are not ready to call you, make an appointment, and come in, but who do have some issue that they're now researching and they want to find out about their issue. They don't want to know how many letters you have behind your name, by the way. They don't really care how many years experience you have. They have a problem that they're trying to solve, all right? So having a follow-up system. In our world, a personal injury client who gets in an accident and enters my ecosystem by asking for one of my books, it might be 3 to 12 months before they are interested enough, have the time, and want to come in, have an appointment. That's fine. They're going through this long funnel, which I call a multi-step, multimedia follow-up funnel, involving outbound calls. Hey, Joe, you called last week to ask for our book on left toenail pain. And I'm Susie from Dr. Bill's office, and we just want to make sure you got the material. Do you have any questions? And most businesses, and every podiatrist who's not in this room, they miss that. They give up on these leads way too soon. And so what you need, once you buy into the concept, moving parade of interest and now follow-up system, is you need a way to automate that. Because optimally, nirvana would be, you're on the phone 24 hours a day, calling back every single potential patient who's requested information, but that's impossible. I mean, that's silly. So you need then a system that will do this essentially for you. My buddy Tom Foster has already built that for you with his Foster Web Marketing websites, and he and Rem were trying to explain to me that it's HIPAA compliant. I don't know what. I mean, you just got to trust them on that stuff because I'm not an expert there. But Tom's built this thing, and Rem and Tom and I worked on this for years and years and years to automate both the delivery of the information and now to automate the follow-up system. The next thing you need is you need to understand the internet. And you need to understand websites and what I think all parts of the internet. And here's why. You do not need to be an expert on SEO. You do not need to be an expert on Panda, Penguin, Pigeon, Butterfly, or any of these other things that Google does to the internet every week, all right? You need to know enough to be able to have an intelligent conversation with whoever it is that's running your internet presence, or else your money will be sucked up by what I call the marketing vultures. The marketing vultures are all those companies that want to, they send me 3 emails a day. We can get you on the first page of Google. We can get you more leads. You probably have that. If you don't, it's just another example of your industry being a few years behind. But if you don't understand what the marketing vultures are selling you, it all looks like a great purple pill that will solve all your problems. And I'll tell you that it is not. Marketing is a very complex problem. Complex problems require sophisticated solutions. Again, the great news is that you're here, and this is what Rem and Tom, and frankly, with some of my guidance, because we've worked together for years and years, have developed for you. And there's lots of people in this room who have already bought in, who've been using these systems for years, and one of the things you want to do is find out who they are, and as Rem said, you don't want to sit with the guy and gal who brought you here. You want to go and find new friends, ask them questions. Last thing I'll say sort of on the general internet, your own site stuff is the mistake that lawyers make is that they want all their sites to have gavels, courthouses, American flags, and pictures of themselves on the most valuable real estate on the internet, which is the top page, the top half of your main website page. And I would suspect, although I didn't go to look at this before I came up here, that a lot of podiatry sites might have, I don't know, pictures of feet, pictures of ankles, crutches, pictures of the podiatrist's office, pictures of the podiatrist inside of the office, pictures of the podiatrist staff. They didn't wake up that morning with foot pain, wanting to know what you look like. They woke up and got on the internet trying to find an answer to their problem. And so now we start to think about web design, and if someone is going to visit you and 9 of your competitors in the next hour, what is it about your website that's going to make them go, oh, this is different? Remember, we go right back to the beginning, almost 90 minutes ago. This is different. This is interesting. This guy wrote a book. He's talking to me. He's talking about me because I have left toe, left foot pain on the top, and this guy's got a book about that. He must be an expert on that. I want his book. I want to find out more about him. So again, Earl Nightingale's principle, if you don't know what you're doing, go look at all 10 of your competitors that are closest to you, look at their websites and figure out how to make yours look different. Again, Tom has been building these for years and years, and the coolest thing about Tom is that he's not only, in my view, one of the top technical experts in the country on the internet, on SEO. I mean, they spend $1 bazillion a year sending their folks to conferences. They're all on the cutting edge. We hear about stuff 6 months before the rest of the world does. He makes changes to our websites. We get pissed off because we think he's screwing with it. 6 months later, Google does its thing, and Tom goes, told you. Okay? But Tom is not only one of the top experts on the technical side, but he understands what we're talking about here, which is marketing. Because there's other web guys who are great technically. They understand SEO. They're going to want to make your site look pretty. They're going to want to put feet, crutches, whatever it is y'all put on your websites, and they'll tell you, look, I just did this over here for Billy and Bobby and Susie. You should have one just like them. And that's like, in our world, that's like, run the other way. That's the dumbest thing you could do. The other part about the internet is we teach to use all parts of the internet. So in the lawyer world, we got all these, what we call the badge sites now. Super lawyers, top lawyers in the country are under 40, top lawyers in the country who are married, all these things. And the answer is yes. Anytime you're able to participate in something like that, if they have that in your world, go and do it. We have Avo for lawyers, and Avo, I know for doctors, I don't know if podiatrists are or not, but as these local rating sites get built, you have two choices. You can say, that's dumb. Why would anyone ever hire a podiatrist based upon anonymous internet reviews and stars? But they do. And so you can either say, I ain't going to do that, or you can run with reality. And reality would say, consumers are making those choices, so let's play in that pool. If there's a site like that in my neighborhood that people are going to, let's fill out our profile, let's get our patients to go review us, let's do everything we can to be a player there. And again, you don't have to do this yourself. You just get Tom and his team, and if you don't use Tom and his team, at least whoever you're talking to, whoever you're buying this stuff from, you have to know enough about this marketing to have an intelligent conversation about it. The last sort of overarching principle we teach, the reason we teach in principles is you're going to hear all sorts of different tools. And frankly, you could get paralyzed by just all of the things you hear in terms of specific tools you can use. And you go back Monday and you go, I don't know what to do. What I'm trying to do is give you sort of a flow chart. And the last principle that we teach is we're always trying to build a tribe or a herd of people who know our story and who will evangelize for us. And so in my world, the people in my community who know me and know my story, the story isn't he's a lawyer. The story is he's dad to 9. That's what's on my license plate. He's dad to 9, runs marathons, runs a couple of businesses, writes a lot, has 4 kids from China. And only I have that story. But only you have your unique story of how you got to where you are, why your practice is what it is. And my argument is, don't be shy about it. A podiatrist is a podiatrist is a podiatrist. A lawyer is a lawyer is a lawyer. See, when they're thrust into your world because they develop pain or they have an acute injury, no one's ever taught them how to go buy one of you. No one's ever taught them how to buy one of me when they get hurt in a car accident. And so having a story, having a mailed monthly newsletter that, by the way, doesn't talk a whole lot about foot and ankle pain because that's only exciting for a little bit, just like teaching about the law is only exciting for a little bit. So one of our big principles is you develop this herd and you stay in contact with this herd through the use of a mailed monthly newsletter. That's interesting. And there's so many cool things you can do with that newsletter. Mine's always filled with the stories that Sandi told up here about our kids. We'll look for other local businesses in the area, in our community, and say, hey, would you like to write an article for my newsletter? Or I kind of like your bids. Can we send someone over to interview you and promote you inside of our newsletter? No one's ever asked them that before. And we're not charging them for it. No one's ever come and said, let me do something for you first. And it's so cool because it cuts down on your work on producing a newsletter. But then when they're profiled in your newsletter, you know what they do? They get an extra 100 copies and they give it out to their clients or patients or customers. That's how you build a community of people who like you for who you are, not podiatrist, for who you are as a human being, who know that story, will evangelize for you. And the last thing I'll say about this is that this is work. So if you came here looking for the one purple pill at one of the vendor stations or thinking that just getting a Tom Foster website or just getting newsletters or books from Ram, just doing one thing is going to change your world, I hate to disappoint. Nothing ever worthwhile for building any business in this competitive world comes easy. What we have done, what Rem and Tom have done, is to try to make it formulaic, make it easier for you to find the right people to work with, make it easier for you to answer the question, here's where my practice is today, here's the patients I'd like to get in the door, what is the best use of my next dollar or my next hour that I'm going to use in marketing. That's really what Ram and Tom and I teach. How can you make a great financial decision about how you're going to spend the capital that you're allocating to marketing? Do not underestimate the difficulty of the task. I don't think this group would. I mean, you wouldn't be here on a Friday night. But again, consumers don't know how to find you. They don't know how to differentiate you. They may not even know what it is a podiatrist is. They probably know what an orthopedist is. They're confused by the chiropractic ads that say, we can do this too. All right? And so that's why we create all of this sort of information marketing for them. All right. What I think that you are here to do this weekend is to find those 1, 2, or 3 things that for you, for your practice, maybe, for your life, maybe, for hiring folks, maybe, find those things for you. And that's why you spend time, I know, working on your goals, actually sitting around, right, Rem? Sitting around tables, working on goals, that sort of stuff. That's so cool. Find for you the 1, 2, or 3 things that will give you the biggest leverage to improve and change the things you want to change over the next 90 days. And when you go back to the world, to your offices, and crap is coming because the world starts to hit you, you need to carve out that time to work on those things that this weekend you make a commitment to change. Because where you'll be a year from now, 5 years, 20 years from now, however long it is for you, is largely dependent on the decisions you make this weekend to change, and the decisions you make each and every day to practice the slight edge, to be different, to live life big, however that is for you. I hope that this has been good. I've enjoyed myself. I know you're going to have a great weekend. Sandy and I are looking for a little quiet time and that 1 or 2 glasses of wine because I don't think we haven't even had dinner. Thanks, Mom and Dad and Terry for being here. My sister Terry, who's helped me when I started my own practice, was there for how many? 16 years. All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Rem, for having me. Good night.